All right, welcome to our training today, the 4 keys of reality creating. I've left this open and I haven't never done this before where I don't have to let people in the room. And so we are recording. We're just going to see how this goes. And then I'll embed the replay on the Genesis page. So I'm launching a course right now called the Genesis, which is the inspiration for this training. And I taught a course in, 2023 called maybe 2024, called The Holistic Art of Attraction. And I think the name was confusing because people thought it might be about dating. But basically, in my own process of trying to understand manifesting and then approaching different blocks along the way of why does this feel hard? And then finding a solution, and then why does this feel hard? And then finding a solution. I put all these together in this course, The Holistic Art of Attraction, which I'm now recreating from scratch and calling Genesis. I wanted the name of the program to imply more than just we're learning how to manifest, but really what the process of manifesting is to me, which is a tool that helps you elevate yourself, elevate your life, but it also requires evolution. And when I think about the word Genesis, and I think about, and obviously it's a biblical term, but it's also a word that means we're creating beginnings, new beginnings. And in my life, especially since I went full time into entrepreneurship, which required so much like digging deep, so much introspection, so much self-accountability. I've seen how much I have evolved over and over again and gone through so many different deaths. And so that's what I want to talk about. That's what Genesis is really about, is a holistic approach to manifesting, a trauma-informed approach to manifesting, and also learning how to let go over and over again so that you can create and improve your belief over and over again that things are just going to get better and better and better. Let me pin myself to the screen. And so there's a few different steps in the process of Genesis. And I think I should be able to mute. Yeah. So in the process of reality creating, there's 4 different steps. And many of you have heard me talk about this before. There's 4 different steps. And so I'm just going to share today the 4 different steps and how I discovered them. So you're going to learn things in this training. I'm not just going to talk at you. That is available to you if you buy at the $88 price point before July 29th. So jumping into kind of the story, the evolution, the training of what are the 4 keys to reality creating. And the first, I wish I had a sexier name for in this moment, but it's just mindset. But mindset involves more than just your mind. So when I first learned about mindset in 2019, it had a huge impact on my ability to create things. I joined this mastermind, and my mentors at the time were the first ones that taught me about mindset, and they called it mindset, but really it was the first step to creating your own reality, whether it's big things that you're manifesting or small. It's just getting clear on what you want and then increasing your belief that that can happen. That's what the mindset is. And mindset comes to me before all other tools, because if you don't understand mindset, then you're not going to be able to understand what your sticking points are for manifestation and energetics, which we're going to get to in a second. So mindset is not just, it is affirmations, but mindset is first getting clear on what you want and visualizing what it would be like to have that thing, what it feels like to have that thing, and then combating any limiting beliefs that arise, saying that you cannot have that thing. That is the first foundational step in creating your own reality, is getting clear on what you want and then starting to become aware of what the blockers might be for you having that thing. And then if you're here, can you just say something in the chat? So I know that my audio and everything is working okay, because I haven't seen any comments come through yet. So that's the first step, is mindset. And so what that looked like for me, mindset, was creating a mindset routine. It was, let me take some time to breathe, and I'm going to visualize what my life would look like what is it that I actually want when I wake up in my ideal life. How do I see that life? And that's changed over the years, different things that I see when I wake up in the morning. And that's the first step. And so then the next step is okay, when I connect that vision to practical reality, what are some of the things that have to happen? So I have to have a little bit of time freedom. I have to have the ability to travel. I have to maybe have my own business, maybe not. Maybe you're manifesting in your own business. And so then you're connecting that vision to like the practical vision of like, and it can change, but what's the practical vision of what I actually want? And then I created a mindset card deck a few years ago, but then you want to start combating the beliefs that are going to prevent you from having the thing, right? And so the combating the beliefs that prevent you from having the thing. So with the mindset card deck, what was helpful about that was having a bunch of affirmations about money. So, I believe there's an unlimited amount of resources. My work is valuable to the world. My work creates abundance for me, all those kinds of things. And then when you read the affirmation, you feel into your body, you feel, or even in your mind, if you're not aware of your body yet at this point, you feel, does this feel true for me? If the affirmation feels true, then just sink it in, like let it sink in and believe it and enjoy it. If it doesn't feel true, now you have something to work with. Now you have something with your mindset that you can progress on. So that is how you use like the affirmations to just check on your belief, and then you're just increasing your belief over and over again over time. So and that's mindset over and over again. I would say really before what I heard that I still think is true is that before you get to like 50K months, 100K months, like much of your success in the beginning just depends on getting clear on what you want and building your belief more and more that can happen. And I think that those two things have to happen like before you get into more specific steps for manifesting. Because as you're trying to like manifest, you need to understand like what the blocks are. Also with mindset, we talk a lot about wealth wounds. So I've talked about, the 5 different wealth wound like archetypes and their antidotes. And that's a big part of my book, Embodied Abundance. I have a quiz about that. I'm sure many of you have seen that. And if not, you can go on my website and find that anytime. But when we look at wealth wounds, we're just looking at 5 core blockers for people bringing in more abundance. They're like money mindset issues, basically. So after mindset, so I learned about mindset and I had all these big ones. I created this vision. I was doing affirmations. I was reading that every single day. And I had the biggest income months I'd ever had. And then when I started teaching those to clients, that process to clients, I had this program back then called the Monetization Accelerator Program. And many of the wins and testimonials I had were not because of practical marketing and business course content. It was because of the mindset. Like many of the screenshots and testimonials on my results page have to do with that. But then what would happen with what I saw with myself and what I saw over clients is that like they would start struggling with their belief. They would start struggling to get results. And, I would say, well, you're doing your morning mindset routine, and the answer could be yes or no. But the bottom line was that I knew that there was something more. I was like, well, the mindset routine doesn't always work. Sometimes it's like I feel blocked or I'm in an anxiety spiral about money or abundance and I don't understand why. And so that's when I like discovered the nervous system. So very quickly, I'm going to go over, hi, Cassidy, and everyone else is here. So I kind of got ahead of myself, but with manifesting, the process of manifesting is like, it builds on mindset. So you have like, what is it that you want? What would it feel like to have it? Creating a plan to get it, and then facing any of that resistance. And manifesting to me is just an extension of those things. So I kind of want to just look up, like, I want to see what AI says about this. Like if I just Google like steps to manifesting, I'm just curious. So like, if you look up the steps to manifesting, they're going to be really similar everywhere. And so in the program in Genesis, I go over this in a little bit more detail, and I have a workbook for you too. But okay, so you have your vision, you visualize what you want, and then you build that desire. Like, what does it feel like to have it? You get excited about what you're visualizing, and then you're building your belief and like believing the desire that what you want is actually possible. Okay, and so then building on that mindset process, you have to accept your belief and your ability to manifest as being true. So this is something that can be really empowering about the idea of manifesting and also really frustrating. But what we're building on for mindset and manifesting is like, okay, now that I am wanting to intentionally create more of my life and do that more consistently, one of the big parts of that is taking responsibility. And that, like, for me, that's where like nervous system even starts seeping in, is like, what do you mean that all my results are my fault, both the good and the bad things in my life? And that could be a really painful thing to take responsibility for. And that doesn't mean that all bad things that happen to you are your fault, because it is true that there are just bad things in the world and we're constantly creating our own reality, and sometimes those things can compete with each other. But if your desire is to manifest and create your own reality, then you inevitably have to take responsibility. You can't decide that some things are things that you created and some things are not. And I was thinking about this the other day, because it is optional for you to take responsibility for everything in your life. And there's someone I can think of who I've had this conversation with a few times, and they're like, it's not my fault that X, Y, and Z. It's not my fault that the job market is the way it is. It's not my fault that when I was trying to go back to school, COVID happened. It's not my fault that, I hear these things. I'm like, well, but it is true that we are like deciding on our life and creating our own reality over and over again. And if you want to manifest more consistently, you either take responsibility or you don't. And that is it is optional for you to do that. But I will say that when you do take responsibility for it, it's really empowering. So I can say, I'm having a hard time manifesting X, Y, and Z, but I know that the reality that I'm in right now is one that I've created for the lessons I need to learn to get to the next step. Or like, I know that I created this reality because I had this resistance, and I'm getting better at manifesting more and more and getting more clear on what that process looks like. So when you take responsibility for everything that happens in your life, you do have to start reframing. So, okay, going back to the steps of manifesting. So we're like accepting the belief, and then you have to, part of manifesting too, I'm not getting into the weeds a lot here, but is you have to focus on what you are going to manifest is like the content of your thoughts. So if you say, I don't want to, this is a bad example, but not, I mean, this is something we don't say, but a bad example of this is, I don't want to be poor. Well, the content of your thoughts is being poor. So what you want to stay and say instead is, I want to be abundant. I want to be rich. I want to have everything I want. You want to focus on what you want and not what you don't want, because what you don't want is creating content. So let me know if you have questions about that, because I'm kind of skimming through these now. So this training isn't a million years long. And then you have to take action. So we go into this in Genesis, and I talk, this is why, even though I've moved more into like mentally, like the somatic work, I still get a lot of business coaching clients because my background is from business marketing coaching. And I'm really focused on like taking the intention and the vision and putting it towards a minimalist, meaningful action for you to create the thing. And then you have to detach from the outcome. And when it comes to these last few steps, this is where, again, new blocks start coming up that are not just belief. So to me, when you're combating belief, you're kind of still in your head and you're still like creating affirmations and you're looking for new evidence. But then when you start taking action, when you start trying to detach from the results, when you start accepting that things are your own responsibility, that's where you start having new blockers that are not just in your head, they're in your body. And that's where the somatic work started really helping me. So manifesting overall requires that you stay high vibe, become an energetic match for the thing you want. But if you don't know how to change or neutralize your emotional state, then it becomes very hard to become an energetic match for the things you want. And what happened for me and what happens for many people is that we get anxiety, we get panic, we get grief about not having the results we want or having a situation that's very stressful. And this becomes like, there's varying degrees of this. There is like, I want more and I don't have it, but I also have all my basic needs met. I have a roof over my head. I get to take vacations every now and then. I get to go out to eat sometimes. So like, I want more, but I have everything I want and a lot of what I need. But then there's times in your life where you like really need something and your basic needs are either not being met or they're very close to not being met. So then it becomes much more difficult to regulate your emotions around manifesting, because you're like, I desperately need this. Like, my back is against the wall. And even in those cases, so it's very important for you to emotionally regulate, even though it's much more difficult in that situation to emotionally regulate. But becoming neutral has been one of the best keys for me in creating my reality, is just becoming neutral better and faster. And there's lots of ways that you can do this, which you get into in the program. But an example of this is like, sometimes there's something I'm trying to manifest that feels very stressful. I feel really anxious about it. If I can't get to a neutral state, like one tip is to focus on something else so you can get neutral about in the meantime or have fun about in the meantime. So if, I'm feeling super abundant with my money situation, I'm getting money from unexpected places, I have more than what I need, but then I'm like also trying to manifest weight loss and the body of my dreams, and that feels really hard, I'm going to focus more on the money side. And that was my situation for a while. It was like the body and the health was feeling stressful and hard. So I still want that. I'm still going to hold the vision. But for now, I'm going to put more of my attention on what feels true, what feels fun. And then the opposite can happen. Like I get an unexpectedly high tax bill over my estimated payments, and I lose a big client, and then I fire a client all in the same week. Actually, I didn't lose a client, but I did. This happened last week. I had a really high tax bill, and I decided to let go of a client, not a big client, but they weren't tiny either. It was just the situation wasn't aligned anymore. So those two things happened in 1 week. And I'm like, well, like I still believe, like I still have more than what I need, but I'm a little bit further from the kind of abundance I was like on my way towards. It feels like a roadblock. It feels like a roadblock or a setback, I should say. And so I'm like, kind of felt stressed about that. And I still hold the vision. I still believe it's happening, but it helped me to get neutral about the money stuff when I focused on something else. So I went to this networking event last week that was really fun. And I detached myself from like, I'm going to go to this to get a sale. I just went and made new friends, truly. It's a really good networking group. If you're in the Houston area, looking for a vibey group, it's Houston and also Utah. It's called, what's their name? Wise Women Masterminds. Really, really good group. And I made some new friends. And then also paying attention to like my health and my body, like that felt easier. And constantly when you're manifesting, it requires a bit of delusion. So we don't want to gaslight ourselves. You want to feel all your real feelings, which is something that we also talk about in the program, is you have to feel your real feelings and then also get neutral about the things you feel negative about, like are overly negative. Like there's a difference between like feeling sadness and grief and feeling like anxiety about the thing not happening for the long term. So hopefully this is all making sense. But this was the process for me of like, okay, mindset and vision was great. Oh my gosh, I've made more money than I've ever made before. Wait, that stopped working. What's going wrong? Okay, let me get more into like manifestation. Okay, now I'm like, have the vision. I'm like feeling what it's like. I'm taking responsibility. I'm visualizing every day. And it's like, oh, wait, something about that's not working. Oh, I can't calm down. And that's where somatic work, I knew that I was being called to somatic work in 2023, and somatic work refers to the body. So without going into too much detail with somatic work, we're getting to the root cause of your mindset issues. So your brain is this much of your processing power, but your nervous system is like 80% of your processing power and experience. So if you're not involving your nervous system and manifesting, you are not taking full care, you're not accessing your full potential. And then the last step for me, even beyond learning how to control my emotions and feel better more often, was like energetics. Then I had to learn to receive. So one of the stories that I probably shared at some point is, I hit a wall in my business that I had a month where I made almost $0 in sales and also accumulated like $60,000 of debt within like a year period. It all happened very fast. And I started finding money on the ground and started feeling gratitude. So I learned how to start feeling better before my whole entire reality was better. And then I was able to start like manifesting again because I was like feeling better. So I got an $8,000 check in the mail. And then I was gifted a $5,500 luxury spiritual retreat. And then I had to start learning. That was my first introduction into the last phase of all of this, which is learning to actually receive. And this can also be called a mindset issue, a worthiness issue. But for me, this came in the beginning and the mindset, but also like once I started manifesting more, I had to learn to hold it. And that's also where the nervous system comes in, because you can only have as much as you can hold, both the good and the bad. So if I can hold this much good, you have to also be able to hold the opposite of that, the bad, which requires a regulated nervous system and emotional balancing. And emotional balancing is simply holding a good feeling and a bad feeling and being able to go between the two. Because even an exceptionally good feeling that you're not used to can be dysregulating to your nervous system if you're not used to it, if you can't hold it. So when I received that $5,500 spiritual retreat for free, because somebody else paid the ticket in full and decided not to go and gift it to someone, I had to learn to receive that. And instead of like receiving it and feeling like the other shoe was going to drop, I had to receive it and know that it was okay and know that I deserved it. So those are the 4 steps to reality creating, are having like a mindset and your vision. And mindset is like building the belief that things can happen. And then we have to get into more the manifesting process, which is like taking responsibility for things, holding the vision over a long period of time, and all the other things you hear about manifesting. And then I had to get into the nervous system. I had to learn how to hold more of the good, hold more of the bad, and get to emotionally neutral faster so that I stopped sabotaging my manifestations. Then I had to get into energetics of receiving, and not just receiving. Energetics also refers to like learning to trust and tap into your intuition more, which comes back into manifesting and aligned action. It's like I wrote about this morning, like we have to take aligned action over and over again with manifestation. And part of getting into mindset is believing that your action will work. I was reading this book this morning and I realized what part of what the book was saying is that you cannot think that your future results are determined by past actions. So what does that mean? It means like somebody will say, "Oh, you should try Facebook ads to do X, Y, and Z, Allison. Like I want to build more of a local audience to meet like real connections, and there's various reasons why I want that." And someone's like, "Well, you should have run Facebook ads for that." So my mind says, "Well, I've run Facebook ads before, and I feel like it doesn't grow the right type of person on my list." And that's a mindset issue. That's saying my future results are partially determined by past actions. But I could choose a new belief to say, like, it's going to be different this time. It's more energetically aligned this time. It's a totally different thing this time. Like, I'm deciding this time the result that I want. And maybe starting to run Facebook ads is not going to create the result. But when I start to run Facebook ads, it will lead me to another action that will create the result. Like maybe starting Facebook ads is like, I'll meet a new friend who really wants to be part of this event and she's got a large audience and she wants to share it. There's a million ways this can happen, but we have to get better at asking, like getting clear on what you want and asking for it and receiving over and over again. So in Genesis, this is what I'm teaching in detail. There's a workbook where there's going to be 7 live training sessions, kind of like this, although because it's paid, a little bit more people will attend.